Hey everyone, it is May 17th, 2019, and welcome to another Brooklyn Baritone Podcast. Get right into it. Are you a failure? Do you fail things? Are you a loser? Because if you do, you need to stretch. You need to strengthen up. You need to straighten up your back. Pull yourself up from your own bootstraps and make it happen. And stop being a sorry excuse. Okay, all right, let me stop right there. Because all of us have failed something. All of us has failed something in life. And we should not ever be judged or even judge someone off things that they are bad at or are lacking in certain skill sets or knowledge. Because if we did that, if we were based everything solely off of failing or being a quote unquote winner, then we would be a terrible society. But wait a second. I think there's some truth to that we are not where we need to be as a society. It is not as great as we think it may be because we base a lot of things based on failure and success, quote unquote. I'm going to share with you that recently I failed something. And it was actually an exam, because by trade I'm an IT professional. I already have other certifications. I was going for another one. It was a certified ethical hacker exam, and we learned a lot of good things in that course. And when I took the test, I was confident actually to know, I'm like, I should be comfortable enough to pass. It turns out that I failed the exam by one question. You know, I'm a little bit salty, but the saltiness has subsided because, you know, the whole grading process changed. It actually made it a little bit more stringent because I think probably more people are passing it, so they decided to raise the bar, and they just happened to raise the bar at the version test that I took. So yeah, I felt away, but you know what? I didn't let it defeat me. You know, I felt away because I even looked to dispute it and all that good stuff. But of course, the organization that makes the test, they stood by their decision to say, no, you are not a certified ethical hacker, but you can take the test for a discounted price, which is still a good amount of money. But you know, when we do things, we don't set out to fail, because we take a hard hit. And the reason we take a hard hit with our ego or pride is because this is how we live. This is society now, unfortunately. It kind of shines a light on people who knocks things out the park, who does things effortlessly, and the people who seem to struggle with something, you know, is kind of frowned upon, shunned upon, like, oh, can't believe with their hands over their mouth looking at you, they failed. They wasted money, wasted time. We don't want to fail certain things because exactly what I just said. We don't want to feel like we wasted time or resources, because time is a very valuable, priceless thing that we always have to utilize to the best of our ability. But anyways, I don't believe it was Einstein. I said this in another podcast. It's believed as Einstein. I don't know if it is. I can't say for sure, to be honest. But the quote goes, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to feel like it's a failure, which is true. I said this before, where you have to understand your own talents, your abilities, and even go beyond just your own, but recognize the talents and the abilities, even limitations of other people. Because you could put someone who was not a very sociable person at all and like the front desk, even though it's probably the job that they applied for because they have to pay bills and everything, yada, yada, yada. But if you have people in your organization, yes, if you are a manager, supervisor, a leader with that title, it is your responsibility to recognize those people's strengths. I know we may not have that luxury to shift people around, but at the same time, you know, it's always a decision. It's always a decision to look to bring the best out in people so the best of them can be put out there and benefit everybody. Never mind the noise outside and that you're hearing in the background. That's like stuff going on. But anyways, you need to recognize what people are good at and what people are not good at. So you don't jeopardize them. You don't jeopardize their self-esteem by putting them in a position where they're not good at. That's not their strength. That's not their strong suits or their strong areas. So why would you set them up for failure? Because that's exactly what that is. And being that we are in a, not stringent, but we are in a very judgmental, wrongly, a way we judge things and people very wrong, because we just look at things on the surface level. We have the tendency to have a knee-jerk reaction, and then we find things out as time progresses. This is where humility comes in, where you have the ability to look at the big picture. Yeah, I know what's going on. I understand what's the deal. But at the same time, let me take some time to soak in more of the facts or look to see exactly what's going on. Because when something happens, someone fails, or whatever the case is, we jump already to the wrong kind of judgment. We're supposed to judge, but we have to do it with wisdom and humility towards everyone and everybody, because we don't want it done to ourselves. And this is a kind of mindset that society has practiced, unfortunately, because everything's so quick. So now everything is kind of like, in your face. No one really practices humility and patience. But I don't want to go sidetrack. That's like another podcast. Again, now going back to my story with failing. I felt bad. And if it was younger Corey, I would be a lot more troubled by it. And I would feel more people will look at me like a failure because of it. Because, the point I am now in my life, in this IT career that I have, and now I'm also doing other things, I'm more bolstered in myself. I took the course and the exam more as a challenge because, one, I wanted to learn more things. And that's the most important part, is like when you fail, sure, it's a speed bump. It's not a wall. It is not the end of the world. It's a speed bump. You learn things whether you succeed at things or whether you fail at things. And even a lot of times, I used to say when I was younger, in my limited wisdom, it's sometimes better to know what not to do than knowing what to do. Because you can do things and be very talented, and things will come easy to you. But you don't want everything to come easy. And a lot of us don't want the pain of the hard work that chisels us. When we're at the gym and everything's burning, you're doing cardio, it's burning. You're at a job and it's like really pushing your resources and mental capacity to its limits almost. You don't want to be stressed, but you want to be able to come through learning more about yourself, which is very important. I think is the goal for any venture or anything you take in life. So I learned a good amount of things with, the ethical hacking term. It relates to my industry. I didn't get the certification that I wanted. Okay. But on a brighter note too, I recently took, I think 2 months before that, another certification exam, not in the same industry. So I'm now I'm officially a certified small unmanned aircraft system pilot. That means I'm a drone pilot, and I'm officially certified by the government. So I studied for a while for that, and I passed it. And this is something related to what I like to do and what I want to do too as well, commercially and recreationally. This is another part of myself. What I want to do is, as a challenge to grow yourself. It's all about growth, and you're not going to get everything that you want, and you can't allow other people to make you feel like that you're worth nothing based on a title, a status, or even a salary that you get or position that you have, or even by your possessions. Because a lot of people, myself included, I'm not at the level that I'm really supposed to be at. But as much as I say it's motivation to keep at it, to get what I want, property, nice size home, I don't want like a bunch of cars or nothing like that, but I know what I want. I'm not there yet, but I'm making steps towards that. And I have it in my mind every day when I wake up. And then some people will be like, well, I don't have this at a certain age, or other people I know have this, and they feel bad. They downgrade themselves they degrade themselves. They beat themselves up, or other people beat them up. Well, you should have XYZ by now, or you have your cousins over here, they're doing this and wonderful things. That's their path. I understand if it's time to do things, it's time to do things. If you got to hunker down and get at it, if you got to make sacrifices, if you have to put yourself out there, if you just have to just roll up your sleeves and just get to work, then get to work, man. Do it. But at the same time, you have to know yourself, and it's all about timing. It may not be your time yet to get certain things. You probably have to just have certain things figured out or set up in order for you to take the next step. But do not ever look at failure as a bad thing, and do not condemn people for failing certain things. Now, if it's a consistent pattern, then, there's going to have to be some intervention and overhaul, and like thinking, hey, something's wrong here. Something's not being, the synapses are not connecting. We have to put forward our best effort now to make sure no more time or resources are wasted. So by no means am I saying just slack off, or slack off on someone else who should be and could be doing much better with their time available to them. What you need to do is help encourage people first. You have, of course, encourage yourself. Put yourself out there. Everything's not going to come to you easy. You're going to fail and flop with certain things. It all depends on how well you adapt to that failure and learn from that and use that to fuel you even more. Maybe I'll take a break from going from that path or doing that specific thing again, and I think I may go this path now. Or I'll spend more time doing this and possibly revisit whatever it is I failed. Could be trying to cook something. Could be working at a relationship. Because remember, these are two different people in a relationship, whether it's mutual friendship, a colleague at work, or even a relationship with a man and wife. When you're dealing with other people other than yourself, remember, you have to still struggle with yourself. So now when you introduce other people into any kind of relationship, you're dealing with those people's different mindsets, the way of life, the different upbringings. There's so much different things that are involved where you have to look at, where you may think it's a failure what you're doing or not doing, and other people are not even looking at it like that. They could be admiring you for something totally different that you're totally not even looking at. I've been guilty of that. There's so many people that looked at me for certain things, certain, maybe talent or ability or just my personality. And to me, I'm like, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I'm too busy looking at what I don't have as a failure. I'm missing out on the riches that have been put there inside of me, by the Father. And other people see it. And that's a terrible thing, where you don't see where you are a success at, where you're only looking at what you're failing at. And that is a very defeatist mindset. It's bad, it's terrible when you do it to yourself, but it's even worse when you get it from external sources. It's okay to fail. It's another thing to keep failing, but at the same time, depending on your path, depending on who you are, it could be all part of the process, because a lot of people fail multiple times where people say, hey, maybe you need to stop, and maybe you do need to stop and reassess what you're doing, or you know exactly what you're doing. It's like, you know what, let me just keep at it and keep at it. You're going to know, but you're going to have wisdom and, again, humility to know yourself properly, to know everything else around you and see the bigger picture. When you don't see the bigger picture, that's where problems happen. And most people that deem people as failures, they don't see the bigger picture other than the top layer as you failed. Oh, well, now we know you're incompetent. And I felt, again, using my own personal experience in a previous position I've had, my mindset and approach to things was looked at as a failure. And I've been told so plenty of times. But when in retrospect, I realized I was so correct. And honestly, I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything, but the way I thought, and one of my good colleagues that were working with me too, the way we thought were so far beyond that organization that we worked at. They were stuck in a very fixed mindset of what quote unquote success was, that they kept missing the mark of what true success was. We knew exactly what was needed. We knew what was needed to accomplish these things. But again, we were in the wrong organization. But thankfully, we were grounded in ourselves, and we actually grew more as we helped each other out. And we went through so much different trials and trying things. We knew we were not failures. We know what's wrong. It's a shame that most other people didn't realize that, or people just basically adopted the mindset of what the quote unquote success looked like. They adhered to that because they wanted to save face. They wanted to look credible. But we knew exactly what the problem was. We highlighted the problems and we dealt with it as best we possibly can, but we did not lose ourselves. So I can say, yes, I know for a fact I was not a failure. I know for a fact what people thought was a failure was a facade. So don't sell yourself short. Give yourself the opportunity to fail. Give yourself the opportunity to reflect. And don't bash anyone who does fail. You never know what's going on with them, and you have no idea what else they're very great at, very proficient at, very successful at. So you owe it to yourself and you owe it to everybody else. Well, that's enough. That's all I have to share today. A little bit under the 20-minute mark, but thank you for listening. I pray for all of you that you keep pushing to develop yourself and to grow yourself, and then in turn pay it forward and help grow others. You fail, it's okay. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. This is Corey Ashley signing off. You will hear from me next week in my next podcast drop. Hopefully I'm not too caught up in my other life, in my personal life, where I'm gonna put out content this late in the week. Anyways, thanks for listening. Take care. Be blessed.